else shopping for insurance shop across state lines. Inject as much of a market force into shopping for insurance as possible. This TV station constantly runs commercials saying 15 minutes could save you 15% or more by switching to Geico or Allstate or whatever insurance there is. In every insurance market, we have competition. And you got people on TV saying why their product is better than the other. Why don't we try that between health insurance?
Why can't they do that now?
Because we don't have a nationwide market for health insurance. So we need to allow people to shop nationwide as they do for car insurance, and shop online. If they want to call Geico for health insurance or the equivalent thereof, we ought to try market forces. The free enterprise system and competition are what has made America great, and we've never tried that in health insurance. World War II, that time frame, we went to employer-based health care. Now, what if instead we had given all that purchasing power to individuals? Then they would have the same choices that they have for property and casualty insurance or for car insurance. I think it would bring prices down. The problems that we've had in healthcare, certainly we've had the 30 million that are not covered, and we ought to do what we can. And these are people that are uncovered, even though we have the CHIPS program, even though we have the Medicaid program in every state. So we need to do what we can to cover those really hard to cover and insured people. But the real problem that we had was health care costs are going up 3 times the rate of inflation. And so that makes health care almost unaffordable over the long run. Say if the inflation rate is 1% per year, it's been pretty low. If the inflation rate for health care is 3% or 4% a year, then health care costs are just skyrocketing and growing faster than the economy. So that is a problem, and what we've seen, what the real results we've seen already as Obamacare has steadily been implemented step by step, is that health care costs are continuing to go up at a higher rate than the rest of the economy. So it's a real concern. And I would just say to my constituents, I didn't vote for this. I have solutions that I did vote for that I think would have injected market forces. You had mentioned delaying implementation. The Obama administration has actually delayed implementation of a couple of pieces of that legislation. Right. At the end of the day, is that how this thing gets turned around? I know there have been multiple votes in Congress to repeal the whole thing, and they've all failed. Is that how you foresee changes being made? Is that maybe it's a piece of it here, a piece of it there, and then everybody works it that way? I want to see the whole act delayed and replaced with something that's market-based. But really, the president doesn't have the statutory authority to do everything he's done. I mean, there's no waiver provision in Obamacare for the employer mandate. He just came out a few weeks ago and said, we're going to delay that for a year. And at the same time, so those of us who say, well, if that's fair, why don't we delay the individual mandate? And the administration won't do that. So for big companies, for the biggest companies in America, the president said, you don't have to do this for another year, maybe 2. But for that individual out there who either has to comply or pay a fine, the administration is not willing to delay that. I don't think they have the statutory authority to do any of these delays. I don't see that in the thousands and thousands of pages in the bill. But if they're going to do it, it seems fair to do it for everybody, the little guy as well as the big corporations. We're speaking with Senator Roger Wicker, talking about a variety of issues while he's here at home during the August congressional recess. I know the budget's a big deal for you, and it's not just because you're on the budget committee. Really, I guess for everybody in Congress, when it comes to financial matters, the budget's a big deal. As we sit here today,
and I think October is when the new budget's supposed to kick in. What's your take as far as where Congress is at in getting a new budget ironed out? Are you concerned? Are you satisfied? What?
I'm not satisfied, and frankly, I see polls showing Congress at 11% approval rating. I wonder who those 11% are. If you polled me and asked me if I'm satisfied with the Congress, I'd say no. I'm one of the 89%.
So where are you guys at? Where are you folks at as far as crafting, getting that budget?
The budget has to be one of our biggest concerns. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Mullen, said a couple of years ago that the national debt is our number one national security problem. National security problem is a national debt because it makes us, it limits us in so many ways of protecting the United States and influence and trying to protect American interests and Americans' ability to trade. I agree with Admiral Mullen on that, and we're going to see later on this year, at some point, the national debt will exceed $17 trillion. I really expected it to happen in August, and I've seen some figures that I don't quite understand coming out of the administration, but it's going to happen soon. $17 trillion, and we've added almost half of that in just the last 5 years. So it's an astonishing growth in the rate of spending, and what we're saying as a country when we do that is we don't have enough money to pay for everything we want to do. So we're just going to go down to the street to the Treasury, print some more money, add it to the debt, and charge that to the next generation and to their children and grandchildren. It's generational theft, and we can't go on like that. So we need to be concerned about where we are and getting past this hurdle, which we had to do 2 years ago when we had a little bit of a standoff on the debt crisis. But also, we're going to have to figure out a way to slow the growth rate of our entitlement programs. If you looked at a pie chart, you'd see that all 13 of the appropriation bills that the Congress presides over every year, that's 1/3 of the budget. And half of that is defense. So all the rest of the departments are 1/6 of the budget. That's the appropriation bills every year. 2/3 of the budget is on autopilot. We don't pass an appropriation bill each year to fund those programs. And these are very popular and important programs. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Those are the three big ones. Some of our veterans programs, which are also very important, and I very much support. Those are on automatic pilot. 2/3 of our spending, we don't necessarily look at that every year in the appropriations process. A lot of people don't understand that. And what has happened there is that part of the budget has grown faster than any other part. Now, this was happening to Social Security in the early 80s. And Social Security was on a track of going bankrupt. President Reagan, a Republican, and Speaker Tip O'Neill, a Democrat, got together, worked it out on a bipartisan basis, agreed not to give a lot of fiery speeches against the other and demagogue the issue. And they passed a bill making adjustments in Social Security. Could have been very controversial. But they passed it on a bipartisan basis, held hands not as Republicans and Democrats, but as Americans, and saved Social Security for over 3 decades. We're in a situation now, particularly with Medicare, with Medicaid, with those entitlement programs, they're just mushrooming and squeezing out all the spending that we'd like to do to create jobs. Every Commerce Committee program gets squeezed out by this automatic spending. We'd like to build some more highways in Mississippi with federal highway money. That gets squeezed out by the growth rate of these health care programs. We don't need to cut anybody's Medicare.